Hi, this is Billy and Michelle from Permapastures Farm. Now, she's not real crazy about being in this video, so she's going to be my assistant. William, our son, is actually the one holding the camera. And folks, I think you ought to be excited today because number one, not only is it her debut in this YouTube channel, we're going to be training these trees and we're going to be doing it the way that Stefan Subkowiak teaches in the permaculture orchard video. The whole reason we do it this way, the reason we're doing it this way is because when it's coming up, first of all, it's too much of an angle anyway. When it's more than 45, you want to bring it down anyhow. This is considerably more than that. And plus, it's a branch we do want to keep because it's not 50% greater. It's at the right height. It's roughly at the right height. And it's one we want to keep. We let it get a little too far, much longer than we ordinarily would have. It should have done it at about 1 meter, but hey, you know, we had a lot to do, so we're getting to it now. So ideally, we want to get it to where it's the growth in this tree where the hormones are telling this tree to produce fruit, not necessarily to grow. And frankly, folks, I don't know if I want it to grow too much more because we put it in when it was about, what, this high? And then 1.5 years later, look at it now. So where we're going to start, we're going to use a few knots today, folks, in order to do this. Now, Stefan Subkowiak uses, I think they're hangers. I'm not sure what exactly he uses, some sort of metal where he hooks it here and then grabs it onto the base. Well, if I pull this thing this far, I guarantee I'm going to break it. I don't want to do that. And like I said, this branch is a little more robust than we'd really want to work with right now. So I'm going to show you my way of doing it. I'm going to show you our way of doing it. Instead of using the method where you would take the hangers and go about it that way, we're going to try it another way. We got a stake in the ground that we pounded a little bit earlier, and I got some 550 cord here. I'm going to trim it up just a little bit. And whenever you use 550 cord, it is always a great idea to singe the end of it. So we'll do that, hopefully without burning myself. We're going to get it just enough to where it's right about there. We'll let that cool off. And then William, we'll have you come around the side here, and I'm going to show you the 2 knots that we're going to do today. Actually, it's going to be more like 3 knots, but the primary knots we're going to use, one is called a prusik, and it has a specific purpose. One is called a girth hitch, and the other is a bowline. You don't need all these knots necessarily, but I would highly encourage you to learn at least the prusik, because that is going to be very, very vital for what we're going to get around to. Now, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this knot. All right, this is a prusik knot. Pretty darn simple. Just go over twice. You got a round, what's called a round turn, cross over, and then we're going to come back 1, and then a second time, and then we're going to dress it all up. We're going to make it look neat. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a prusik knot. Okay, what's important about that knot, you're going to find out here in a minute. That is a prusik. Okay, just as a side note, folks, everything with red danger tape on it, that's a branch I want to keep. And by the way, this one over here, it's greater than 50% than the base that it's tied to. So come fall, this will be one that we're going to get rid of. And then of course we'll be shooting out a bunch of other shoots will come out there and we'll select which ones we want. Okay, so the next stage is I showed you how to make a prusik and I showed you how to make a girth hitch. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this old sock of Williams, and I got a hole in each end. Now you could, preferably if we had it, I guess we ran out at some point. I like to use burlap, but this will work. So all I'm going to do is go through, and burlap, the cool thing about it is if I use burlap, the cool thing about it is I can wrap it on there. This sock is going to do just as good, but the cool thing about burlap is I can go ahead and wrap this thing and you know, have it actually, it'll stay on, it won't harm the wood, it won't have any problems, and it'll still be tight. But guess what? This sock will do the same exact thing. And the cool thing is that the sock, the cotton in it, it'll still, as long as there's no tension on it, I can move it up and down that tree. So Michelle, if you'll help me kind of be real genteel as I'm working this, kind of hold it about right there. In the bottom of here, I have a little notch in this little stake that we did. And this is where that fancy prusik knot is going to come in handy. You got a hold of it, honey? Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm going to cut it here. I'm going to singe it again. Remember, whenever you cut 550 cord, always, or some people call it paracord. I mean, we used to call it 550 cord back in the day. So whenever you do that, like I said, you have little strands on the inside, and if you don't do that, they're going to go all over the place, and they'll probably fly back up in there. Okay, here's where the Prusik knot comes in handy. The same knot I showed you earlier on that piece of wood, I'm going to tie that, instead of tying it onto this wood, I'm going to tie it onto the rope itself. Now, this might seem a little bit strange, but when it's all said and done, you're going to know exactly what the purpose was. I'm going to go around twice on one side, come on this side, do it twice, and we'll get a better look of it when I'm all said and done. But I'll show you why this knot is probably in that chicken tractor, at the chicken tractor at work, and I can't even tell you how many times I use this knot, and I'm going to show you exactly why and why it's so incredibly valuable. You can let it go, honey. Okay, the cool thing about it is as long as this knot is under tension, it's not going anywhere. Now, once I take the tension off, I can slide up and down. Now, it isn't quite where I want it, so let's do a little something here. I'm going to pull and I'm going to slide it up. Voila, there you have it. Let's say it's too much, I didn't like it. I can take the tension off, pull it back. There you go. But I like it up closer. I'm going to pull it down to right about there. The cool thing about this method is I can raise and lower it. I could take it down more if I wanted to. But right there is good. Like I said, this branch is a little more mature than I'd like. Okay, that's one down, two to go. As far as major branches go, these others are too small. We want to wait till they're about 1 meter long before you do this sort of thing. And as you can see, this one here, now keep in mind, it looks like it ought to be productive. Like, hey, this is wonderful. Well, guess what? Under that method, if it's 50% or greater than the base it's attached to, it's got to get pruned. And then just so happens in this particular case, when I cut off this, that's about 1/3 of this tree. So we're not going to worry about this until fall, and we'll prune it out of there. So this will ultimately be our central leader. So everything else is done. This one's done. We're going to knock out these other 2 branches, and then we'll get back with you. Okay, so what we did, folks, it looks like the Griswolds basically decorated a tree, or better, Cousin Eddie did. But hey, this is what we had, and it works. So we got socks. We have a knot. We have a Prusik knot, which, by the way, folks, everybody has their own personal whatever, but for me, the Prusik knot is the most valuable tool that I use on the farm and at work. I've used it throughout my career in a number of applications. It works so well, especially when you have something that you need to adjust, or you may want to adjust. You know, in a couple of days or whatever, I may decide that this isn't long enough, or it's too long. Whatever the case, I don't have to cut it, retie it, do any of that. I can just take the tension off, slide the knot in or out, lower or raise this thing as needed. And remember, the whole reason for doing this, and some people would argue whether or not this is something you want to do to a tree anyway. Well, this is what we're doing. Remember, we're trying to bring this thing below horizontal so it'll increase the hormones that produce fruit. And we'll see just how that works out for us. And like I said, the only branches that we have on this tree that are really eligible for this are this one, and this one. This one here is way too big. We're going to get rid of it come fall. We're going to cut it out. It'll be stimulated, and then next thing you know, we'll have shoots shooting out of there, and we'll decide then what we want to do with it. And then the top ones will become more mature. And when fall rolls around, we'll deal with the chimney, we'll deal with all the other things, all the other branches that are in here that either we do or don't want to keep. So, okay, this is Billy, Michelle, and William working the camera from Permapastures Farm. If you like what you see, tell your friends about us, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, put in a comment. And folks, any links you may need for the knots we've done are going to be down below, so do all of that. This is Billy, William, and Michelle from Permapastures Farm, and we invite you to come out the next time when we're laughing for absolutely no reason.
Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing.
I feel like an idiot sitting here staring at the camera.
It looks like you're just angry.
I'm laughing.
We got to do it again?
No, we don't have to do it again.
I'm
But
laughing.
just finish off, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
I did all that.
You said, well,
Oh, okay.
I'll keep that ending.
Okay, you ready?
Smile. Mom.
I'm smiling.
You want to just leave the ending in there the way I did it?